Mario Kart 64 is very often labeled as one of the best Mario Kart games by older fans. But why is this? Is there more than nostalgia backing these intense feelings that people have about this game? Perhaps the shift from the first Mario Kart to this fully 3D style has something to do with it. Today, I will attempt to answer all of those questions and more, as it's time to take a look at Mario Kart 64. Released in 1996 in Japan and 1997 for everyone else, Mario Kart 64 came out relatively early in the N64's life and quickly made its mark on the gaming scene as a landmark multiplayer game, revolutionizing the genre as a whole. Eventually it became the second best-selling game for the N64, just behind Super Mario 64, which is a given. It was one of the launch titles and, kinda changed gaming forever fundamentally. So Mario Kart 64, eh? No point dragging things out more than they have to. This is a really amazing game, and as in comparison to Super Mario Kart, this marks my point of entry into the Mario Kart series. As such, it's one of my personal favorite childhood games, but to be fair, it's been a long while since I last played through the whole thing. Even so, this is one of those games I have my earliest memories of gaming with. Racing on these tracks just never seems to get old for me, and besides all of those iconic sound effects and music, it's permanently imprinted on my brain anyway. So let's get started. I hinted at this in the last video, but I really have to emphasize this. Mario Kart 64 is better than Super Mario Kart in every single way. It's one of those rare moments where a sequel to a game improves on everything from the old entry so hard that there really isn't much of a reason to go back and play the old one. So, what's new? The biggest change of all is that the game is finally in 3D, and oh wow, that makes a huge difference. No longer will your eyes be strained as you try your very best to see where the next turn in the track is. This single change fundamentally changed how the courses were designed going forward, now allowing the race to go up, down, and even in tunnels and so on. The item selection got a bit of an upgrade as well from the last game. The obtainable items in Super Mario Kart were the banana peel, the mushroom, the green and red shell, coins, a feather, a lightning bolt, a superstar, and Boo exclusive to the battle mode. In Mario Kart 64, you can now get your hands on the banana peel, a banana punch, green shells, red shells, triple green shells, triple red shells, mushrooms, triple mushrooms, fake item box, lightning bolts, spiny shell, golden mushroom, superstar, and Boo. In Super Mario Kart, the item selection was quite basic, consisting mainly of shells, bananas, and mushrooms. However, Mario Kart 64 expanded upon this foundation by introducing items like the golden mushroom, which allowed players to gain numerous speed boosts for a short period of time, and the fake item box, which could trick opponents into crashing. Additionally, letting Boo be used in the Grand Prix, which allowed players to steal items from opponents, added a new layer of strategy to the gameplay. These additions increased the overall complexity of item usages and added more variety to races, enhancing the overall experience of Mario Kart 64 compared to Super Mario Kart. Although there still are cases of red shells misfiring, which really freaking sucks. And then, what might just be the most important change for people like me is the controls. The Nintendo 64 introduced the world to the wonderful analog stick. And yeah, sure, it had a weird construction that eventually led all sticks to become very loose and all, but gosh darn it, I love this thing. Having it right there in the center of the N64 controller made for a great feel that really hasn't been replicated at all, despite stuff like the GameCube and Switch Pro controllers being great in their own way. And the shape of this thing is something that turns a lot of people who never owned an N64 off. So let's talk about that. According to the manual, there are 3 different ways to hold the controller. Flip over to page 9 and you'll see the right position. This is by far the most commonly used one. The home position, that was a bit underutilized, although notably Kirby 64 used it. Then finally we have the left position, that really was never used in anything noteworthy that I can think of. And besides, it feels kinda cursed. Don't use this one. A rather small change as well is that 150cc is now unlocked by default, as well as the Special Cup. So make what you will of that. Although I have a hard time believing that anyone was actually begging to unlock 150cc in Super anyway. What some may be begging over though is the more characters given. The grand total for Mario Kart 64 is still 8. Basically the same roster as the first, with DK Jr. getting switched out for Donkey Kong and Koopa for my dear fat man Wario. Now, just as last time, all characters are separated into weight classes and all, but in reality most people, as far as I know, go with Toad, given he's the fastest and the lightest one. You know, oddly enough, that reminds me a lot of another certain overused character that we will have to talk about in a future video. But hey, let's get down to business and talk about the actual gameplay now. Mario Kart 64 feels substantially better than Super Mario Kart. How do I put this? It's like the game just feels more handleable. Handleable? I can handle the game better, okay? The controls themselves remain pretty much the same as they did in Super Mario Kart, which means you can still do everything you could do before, but now, given the whole 3D game world aspect, some crazy skips using the drift jump are possible. Now, I didn't talk about it much before, but if you time the acceleration just right at the start of a race, you can gain a boost of speed. Same goes for drifting for long enough. Although in this game, the drift boosting is a bit weird. In the later games, a spark of either red, blue, or even purple flames come out as you drift, indicating the level of boost you're about to get. But in this game, there's like letters that change colors and such. As a kid growing up without the manual for this game, I never understood this. Like, the fuck? N-E? What? Why? I guess it's imitating the in-game drifting sounds, but really? Whatever the case, the drift works a lot better than it did before. No longer randomly sending me into walls. And honestly, thank fucking God for that. Another new addition to this game is the ability to carry some items behind you as a shield of sorts. Basically just press and hold the item button. Some items like the banana bunch just stay behind you anyway, but it's a nice feature that still is around even today. Lastly, I want to touch upon the fact that you can kinda save yourself from spinning out in some cases. Like, there's no more coins in Mario Kart 64 to protect you or anything. Instead, whenever you're about to spin out, you know, when the kart starts to like wobble a bit, simply brake for a second and you'll avoid the full-on stop from spinning out. Do it right and you'll see a small musical note pop out in a speech bubble over the character's head. Now, I know I probably am missing a ton of small changes that only the most hardcore people would notice. So, if there's anything worth mentioning that you think I've missed, don't be afraid to drop a comment. And besides, be sure to like this video and subscribe if you're enjoying yourself so far. But let's get back to the actual feel of the game. I don't know how to explain this well, but the game just flows nicely. No gimmicks, no weird stuff, no nothing. It really is a safe but very well executed Mario Kart. Everything just feels so good with this one, not to mention those nut-crushingly crisp sound effects. You can almost feel the impact. Then again, you can also hear it, given every character screams like crazy in this game. Toad, you alright? That's the second time this episode you've done that. Alright, besides Toad being Toad, let's take a look at some of the tracks. So for this section, I decided to give you all the one and only valid cup tier list that you should trust. First of all, we got the Mushroom Cup in S tier. All tracks are nice and really well balanced, as any first cup should be. I'll put the Star Cup in A tier, just barely outside of S due to me being salty AF over those penguins in Sherbert Land. The Special Cup is next, and it's gonna have to go in B tier because of Banshee Boardwalk. The rest of the tracks easily pass for A or even S tier in the case of Rainbow Road. Finally, the worst cup for me is the Flower Cup. Mario Raceway and Frappa Snowland easily pass for A tier, but geez, I really don't enjoy Toad's Turnpike, and especially not Choco Mountain. But all in all, the track list of Mario Kart 64 is easily A tier stuff. For those who actually care though, Banshee Boardwalk is boring, both in its design and its music. Toad's Turnpike is just not fun to play on. The controls aren't fine-tuned enough to comfortably drive on the road filled with cars, and then Choco Mountain is just ugly and a hassle to play on. Little story here, but during my time recording footage for this episode, this was the level I had to replay by far the most. Basically, the issue was a lot of crashing into walls and the level itself being really hard to drive on. Like any small bump into the side of a wall often led me to stopping fully. Anyway, enough about that, I want to talk about something I really couldn't last time, and that's, of course, the battle mode. The battle mode in Mario Kart 64 is somewhat simple, but really fun actually. It's a shame that there couldn't be any CPUs in the battle though, but oh well, I guess we would still have to wait a few more years for that to be a thing. Anyway, we got a nice selection of tracks here. Skyscraper, Double Deck, Block Fort, and Big Donut? I'm sorry? Has anyone on the team actually ever seen a donut before? Why are we over lava? But honestly, the main racing mode is one thing, but I feel like the battle mode is where the real multiplayer fun comes from in this game. Again, it is simple, but really freaking enjoyable. Although I suppose a lot of it comes down to sitting down with someone in real life, laughing as you play and screaming at the stuff that happens. You know, a lot of my time recording footage for this episode was spent just like that, split-screen co-op. Makes you miss those days when that was the only option for multiplayer. But it is what it is. Mario Kart 64 was and still is one of those superb N64 games that pretty much everyone looks back at with fond memories. I understand it can feel a bit lackluster to many fans who grew up with the newer entries only, but I do hope that you can give this one an honest shot if you do decide to play it. Today, it's available on Switch Online if you have the expansion pack, otherwise your official options dwindle down to the Wii U's and Wii's that still have the game installed, or if you're a true retro fan, get a proper N64. Though be ready for some truly blurry picture quality unless you get some proper cables for that option. But optimizing video quality for old consoles is a topic for another video. There's something truly special with such a simple Mario Kart as 64. Get some friends together or do some online play exclusively with the Switch version. I promise you'll have way more fun than you probably expect. Plus, why not style a bit and hit yourself with a blue shell as I did here? Or why not do something completely different? Well, buckle up, because next time we face a whole new way to race. So get subscribed and join me here next time for Mario Kart Double Dash. Stay safe and thanks for watching.